consolidating maybe 3 or 4 other tire lines. Is the thinking behind that for the tire dealer so they can kind of simplify their stocking options?
Yeah. Is Jay or John want to?
Jayleen or John?
Yes, exactly. We're combining 2 into 1 for more complexity for production and also for our customers.
All right, hold on, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I wonder where each of these tires are being manufactured and when they might be available to the dealers.
That's also probably
Czech Republic out of our new factory. The customers will be able to start ordering FTC in October, and then in our warehouses in the month of January. And then out.
Is that for both fronts?
No, that's for the Empress S. The other one we started ordering already in this month, and it's available now.
Both are at the factory in Czech.
What?
Both are at the factory in Czechoslovakia. Both are
The
producing.
Empress S is, the Sport is not. Yes.
Sport is
Yeah.
the Europe,
Yeah.
and this is the made in Korea.
Okay.
Do that again. Repeat. The Empress is
Hold on,
in
Jack.
Korea.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I got that straight. The Empress is being made in Korea?
Yes.
Okay, the Enfera is in the Czech Republic. But the Empress is still January for, thank you.
Next. Mike?
Aaron, we talked about this yesterday, and I think it's kind of worth it to bring it up again. You know, as auto journalists, there's a lot of chatter in the industry right now about the impact of tires given the weight of an electric vehicle. So, given that you're on that border between a traditional ICE vehicle, a hybrid, and an electric vehicle, how is that going to combat the kind of discussion that's out there right now around, obviously, the standard tires being run on electric vehicles, they're not EV specific, so they're burning a lot of rubber off faster. Will this new tire help combat that a bit?
Yeah, that's why we designed the Empress Sport to be EV compatible, and that's why we increased that treadwear percent. And we're getting that through really 3 ways in the design of that tire. So what makes this EV compatible? We have a tread compound that's better wearing. We're using the resin technology, so we get better wear from the tread compound. We have a slightly deeper skid depth to the tire, so we have more wearable depth. And we have that the profile. So being 2.5% wider with a fairly flat footprint shape and even pressure distribution across all 5 bolts. So we want that tire wear evenly. You don't want to have any hot spots in that footprint, because that's going to accelerate the wear. So between those 3 things, we focused in there to improve the tread wear. The one test said 14%. I think it's going to be more like 20% compared to some of our previous products. And that's really what the EV market needs, due to that additional torque and the additional weight.
Quick follow-up. Just a quick follow-up. So, because I'm dense and I'm not an engineer. The compound itself, is it actually meant to reduce the speed in which a tire wears?
Yeah, so it's more wear resistant. So the abrasion level is going to be less. If you run that tire for 1,000 miles, it's going to be less abrasion, and you'll have more tread life left.
I think I've got a loud voice, so I don't need okay. On the same line, this is a tire that covers a spectrum of vehicle types, and thus it's going to cover a spectrum of vehicle weights. And if you're warrantying it for 80,000 miles on an EV, Does that mean that same tire on an ice that weighs 500 pounds less or more is going to be a 100,000 mile tire?
So that you identified a very important issue.
So maybe just clearly, as you know, the EV cars, like the average weight is around 28 or 25% heavier than the ICE vehicles. So we offer the 80K for the ICE vehicle, and then we offer the 60K for the EV cars.
So the weight ratings are different for the, okay.
Okay, Don, hold on.
This is more of a general question, but what is the thinking in developing a tire for both an ICE vehicle and an EV as opposed to just an EV specific tire, like several tire makers have gone down that path?
Right. Well, in the end, consumer needs the same thing to be delivered out of the tire. They want treadwear, they want safety, they want us to drive low MPH. So we think we can achieve. We don't need to delineate between those two. It's a little bit of an unknown. The industry is not sure which way it's going to work. When I look at our competitor, let's say Hankook, they've come out with a complete EV range, and it's a really good tire. We tested it; it's fantastic, but it's like 40% more expensive. And are people really going to pay that premium when you can get, very similar levels of performance for less? So we're trying to put ourselves in the position of the consumer and say, consumer still wants value. We can deliver that value at a lower cost and still be EV compatible. But the consumer has options, and we'll see how the market goes. Maybe as the EV market grows, we're still, at least in my neck of the woods, EVs are still a minority. Obviously in California, places that are growing rapidly. As that market grows, maybe we will decide to do a dedicated EV line. But for now, we think this is the most versatile and the best value for the consumer.
Aaron, what would make that Hankook tire 40% more expensive? Because are they just trying to amortize the development? Are they saying we're not going to sell as many, so we got to make more profit on each sale? 40% is a big number.
Well, you probably shouldn't go into that. That's my rough recollection. I just know they're expensive. Part of that cost is those tires come with foam inside. Our tire does not come with foam. So right away, you're probably talking 15% extra for the foam. But I think they're also, that's direct profit for them. If they're trying to position themselves at the very top. No one else is offering an EV specific tire, so they're trying to position themselves at the very top, and they're offering a very top premium price, machine level price. And I'm sure I don't imagine the volume is very high, so they're going to make a profit on that. I'm not sure that the actual cost of that tire is significantly more than what it makes, what it costs us to make our tire. I doubt that it is, apart from the foam. So it could be a good business, good business venture on Nexen.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Thank you. On the AI side, two questions. One, are you using proprietary software to, input all that AI data to figure out kind of your next step for these tires? And then the second part of the question is there kind of like a white whale kind of thing when it comes to the AI, where, man, if it could only do this, if this was the next step, we could, really blow this thing out of the water?
Good question. I have to put on my futurist hat. Regarding proprietary, all those tools you saw are Nexen proprietary. I'm not aware of any kind of name brand software that we're using. Now, as engineers, we use stuff like necessarily the AI software that we're using. As far as I know, that's all developed in-house and is Nexen proprietary. Regarding the other question, like a white whale, I have to put some thought into that. I don't see some kind of revolutionary change in the tire industry in how we're using AI right now. I think outside of the tire industry, I'm not really in a position to comment too much about that, but clearly AI is doing remarkable things and surprising even its own creators. And I think there's risk and hesitation and concern, but we'll leave that for the futurists to figure out, and we're going to continue to utilize big data in an engineering-driven way. Yeah.
Okay, John?
Yes.
So the Empress S is all season. You said there's 94 sizes and it's EV compatible. So when you're going to market this tire to a broad range of vehicles, is the EV compatible just a bullet point, or are you actually going to at some point go after that market specifically with this tire?
Who do you want to answer that, Jay? John? It's kind of a marketing question, I think.
What was the question?
I think the question is, right now we're kind of on the fence with EV and EV compatibility, and John's asking, are we really going to go after the EV market, or are we going to kind of ride the middle line? Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it's an answer of both, quite honestly, because like we talked about before, you know, when you look at other manufacturers, what they're doing, having different paths of handling EV, okay, we're going with one tread pattern to handle both. It doesn't mean we're all in with EV, but EV will be here to stay. So I think Nexen's solution is good for the consumer, and we believe it's also good for our customers from a complexity standpoint. Because we talk about the hand coat, you know, our customers have to carry 2 lines, and you're not just going to carry 4 sizes of a 30 line. They have to carry all of it or need to call. So we're giving the best of both worlds from the EV standpoint, from our customer standpoint, and from our consumer standpoint. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. You know,
I'm used to dealing with comms people who never answer the question. So the question is, obviously this is a very high volume tire for the company.
correct.
And EV market outside of California is like 6%. Okay. So is there any intention to actually talk to those EV? Hey, you're getting ready to replace your tires. You need to be looking at this one. Is that a story to tell, or are you relying on your retailers to tell that story?
No, it's going to be our story to tell, bottom line. Because you look at those customers, it's 6%, okay, and yes, it's a high volume tire, but one of our high volume markets is California. So at the end of the day, we have to build a tire that meets everybody's needs. And that's the goal of this tire.
So let me add a little bit about what Nexen is doing from a sustainability point of view. I don't have any slides on this, but currently Nexen, 27% of all Nexen materials we use to make tires are what we would call sustainable. They're either naturally derived, and can be, boy, my green language is really suffering here. I need to live in California for a little bit longer.
It's groovy, baby.
I need to practice this. So 27%, which is a pretty good number. We were at 23% just 2 years ago. We aim to be 40% sustainable by 2035. And I believe we aim to be 100% sustainable materials by 2050. Now that's a ways out there, but that's how hard it's going to be to replace all of these very good materials are doing what they've been designed to do with completely sustainable materials. Every year, Nexen publishes an ESG report that's independently verified, and we take it very seriously. Sustainability. I was shocked in when did I first visit Shenyang? Like 2016, when I arrived and come up over this hill and the plants in the valley, and the whole roof is covered with solar panels. So I had not seen that before in the tire industry. It means, and we don't even advertise that. That's just the ethos of the company. That, we know tires are not the best for the environment, but we're going to make them as clean as we can, and we're serious about sustainability. So, yeah, Roosevelt.
Hold on, Roosevelt.
Hold on the mic. The
There
mic.
you go. You got the mic.
Aaron, last night you and I were talking about the microscopic particles that come off these tires from abrasion. Talk a little bit more about how that's affecting the environment. And on the other end, at the end of the life of the tire, what are you all planning to do to dispose of these tires?
Yeah. Well, thankfully, very few tires now go into landfill. There's a whole industry on tire recycling, and the number is very high in terms of end-of-life tires being recycled. It's, I think, about 95%. So that's very good. I'm super thankful that this has become somewhat of a circular product. Now, regarding tire particulates, so this is a very hot issue in Europe. It's a very hot issue in Washington State and California. There's a few different things at play here. Some of that is in chemicals. So there are chemicals in the tire that are very good at doing their job, and they're not very safe. Those chemicals stay in that particulate as it's worn off. You know, these little tiny abrasion bits that go to the side of the road. And we have never, as a society, we've been building tires for 100 years, and we've never really thought about where all that particulate is going and what effect it's having. Well, we're starting to think about that, and the data is still a little bit inconclusive, but for example, in Washington State, some academics have found traces of this chemical in the salmon or the trout population in streams. So this particulate is getting washed off the road and into the watershed and potentially going into fish. So they've identified this chemical called 6-PPD, which we use in tires. And by the way, this is not just a tire issue, this is a brake pad issue as well. It's diesel emissions, long-time diesel particulate as well. So right now, Nexen is on a working committee within the industry on how we're going to replace 6-PPD. 6-PPD is a chemical that has a very important job in the tire. We can't just pull it out. We got to figure out how to replace it with a clean material. So that work is in process. Now, there's some question: is this particulate respiratory in the air? You had mentioned that last night, and Europe is looking at that closely. And Europe's solution is basically what we're already doing with M-Press. We want to improve treadwear of tires. So Europe is measuring a new tire by weight, and then they'll measure it after 10,000 miles of wear, then weigh it again. The difference is all the rubber that has been worn away and is left by the roadsides. And they want to control that, they want to reduce that particulate, so they're going to start introducing a test process, and they want to improve the tire wear, so there's less particulate produced as we drive these tires. Now, one thing I mentioned to you is this question has been on my mind, and as I was driving here from Ohio, I was thinking about all the particulate along the roadside, and I told you, I said, well, the grass by the roadside looks just as healthy as the grass, 300 feet off the roadside, so it can't be that bad. But obviously, we live in a scientific world, and we need to look deeper than that. And And we are cooperating as best we can to replace anything harmful in the tire with something sustainable and not harmful. We did this 15 years ago. There was something, you guys at tire industry guys probably remember this, and they're about aromatic oils. We use these aromatic oils in the tire. It was just a manufacturing aid, but they're unhealthy. They're unhealthy for factory workers. So we went through a multi-year process to eliminate all the aromatic oils in the tire, and once again driven by Europe. And we did it. So as an industry, we can change, and we're going to change on 6PPD. We're going to try to improve tire wear, and we're going to try to improve sustainability over time.
So softer tires wear out faster than harder tires, but earlier in your presentation, you were talking about finding that fine balance between both of those. And so, like I said, you go to a racetrack, all of the tire pieces lie all over the place. So that must be another consideration also, is to keep those particulates down, is to make the tire not get them off.
So that soft, hard relationship is not necessarily true. That's the way we have often thought about it. A soft tire must wear more, but it's not always the case. We can make a soft compound that wears better than a hard compound. Now, intuitively, you think, well, a soft compound is going to deform, so it could wear more. But there's more going on there. There's the tensile strength of the compound, there's the abrasion resistance of the compound. So soft does not always mean it wears worse. Yeah. So we're using different knobs in our compound tuning to improve the tread wear.